he said, that way, if something spills, they just don't open it. I don't work for the government anymore. I now work in Philadelphia, at least for now. That's another story. While down in Arkansas, again, I spent 2 very, very long years in Arkansas. The Red Cross chapter was nice. It is a different country for those of you who aren't. And by the way, is anybody from Arkansas here? No one? The people are stupid. There's not really much to do. You won't find a D&D group, for example. Not anywhere. At least not in Pineville. So I would spend most of my time on furry mile. Well, old Dwight and his wife, they kind of got a little worried about me. You know, that boy's just always on his computer there. So they said, you need to get out more. I said, yeah, but where? They said, well, there's a magician coming to town. He's coming next week, Saturday. He's going to give a free show. He's this real good magician. We've heard lots of good things about. Well, you like magic shows, don't you? You like that magic stuff, don't you? I said, well, yeah, yes I do. So I agreed to go. Now, where they were holding it was in the First Baptist Church on Cherry Street, which would make sense because buildings are not very big down there. The First Baptist Church on Cherry Street is the meeting hall for the town. Town meetings go on in there, plays get held in there, and I thought, well, if this guy's as good as they say he is, he should draw a crowd, and he did. It was a capacity crowd. 1,200 people could fit inside that church. Well, the guy started his show, and I do confess he was pretty good. His sleight of hand could use a little bit of work, maybe, but he led in with some great music, a few little hand tricks, and then he did this one trick, which is always one that I've loved. He gets this pie plate. You've probably all seen this. He gets the pie plate and pours some lighter fluid in, and then lights it. He's got this burning pie plate. He shows it to everybody. Then he shows you the lid, so you can see the inside of the lid. There's nothing in there. He puts it on the pie plate, and waves his hand on it, takes the lid off, and there's no more flame. There's now a live dove in the pie plate. Now this was cool. I like this. The dove kind of flips up and lands on his shoulder. He puts the pie plate down, does this sort of thing. Everybody claps. And he goes, picks up the microphone, and he says, now that, brothers and sisters, is how the man who has the fires of perdition in his heart accepts the Lord Jesus Christ into his spirit and is uplifted on wings of song. I said, okay. Shit.
They're all Baptists. Every one of them.
He's in the middle of the pew. I couldn't get out. People on the other side, praise the Lord, yeah, Jesus, oh. That's fine, but not to me. I'm not a Baptist. I'm not going to be a Baptist. They're not going to get me. So after about a half hour, with me sweating and shivering, I finally leaned over to Dwight and I said, I promised my mom I'd call her tonight. You know, it's like getting late in Pennsylvania, you know, past 9, 8 or so. I should really go call her, you know, Mom, bye, America, all that stuff. So he let me go, and I got out of there as quick as I could. Fortunately, I only lived 2 miles away, so I could walk. Now, I know this may seem an extreme reaction to some people. It's not that I'm anti-religious, it's just that the Christian God has it in for me. And I know he does. For one incident. You see, when I was in grad school, my sister got married. And I went back to Pennsylvania for the wedding. Now, I'd been out of my home state for some time, and returning in the springtime, I was not quite ready for the blooming of the wildflowers, and boy, was the pollen getting to me. Just like it is the poor cameraman there. See what he's doing with the eyes there? So you know how I feel. The idea is I'm an usher at the wedding, so I'm supposed to look at least prim and proper. So it's hard to be an usher at a wedding when you're sitting there going the whole time. I'd only brought 1 tissue. Actually, that's not true. I had a whole box, but I had unwisely used them all. So I'm in the sanctuary of the church, waiting for the guests to arrive, and I'm trying to make the best out of this 1 tissue. Now you've all done this, I know. When you've got 1 tissue, and you've got to try to find a dry spot on it, and you use until it's utterly saturated. And then you just keep going, fill it up as best you can. Because this, I had to get as empty as I could. I filled it all up, wadded on up, and looking for the trash can. I look up, people are starting to come in, and I look, there's a little ashtray in the back of the church. Bravo, no problem. Throw it in, I hear a splash. Catholic Church. I didn't know about Catholicism. I also didn't know the ladies are going to come in and reach into that thing and do this sort of stuff. So I was terrified in that Baptist church that a ceiling rafter was going to fall down and just hit me. It was going to fall straight down, like lengthwise, come onto my skull and flatten me and not hurt anybody else. Because, you read that in the Bible about vengeance and all that stuff. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Well, it's his all right, and he's looking at me. You tell him it was an accident. But again, fortunately, I'm not in Arkansas anymore. I now live, at least outside of Philadelphia, where I feel safe. Philadelphia, despite its reputation, is a nice town. For the most part, the people are more or less friendly. That's actually a big fat lie, but when you live there, you kind of try to. And I do that anyway. I happened to be down at 30th Street Station in Philly, and I noticed there were two people, an older lady and a younger woman, staring at the big tourist map, which is put there to confuse tourists, because they don't want tourists coming in and getting in the way. They put this map there so the tourists will go places to get lost. I said to them, can I help you find something? And they said, yes, this is our first visit to Philadelphia, and we're looking for, I can't recall what they were looking for, some little museum, some artist guy or something. They're all over the city. So I pointed out on the map and I said, you need to take the Market Frankfurt line. Now, you can't get there directly from the station. You have to go out the door, across the parking lot, and I'll tell you what, I'm going there myself. I'll just show you. So I took them outside, and all the while I was giving them the Philadelphia spiel. Philadelphia's a really great town. Don't pay attention to what you hear on the news. You'll find friendly people here, just like me. See, friendly people willing to help out. So I took them down to the entrance of the train station. We went down to the platform. It's a little complicated, the system they got. They just got the token system. They don't show you where to put the token. So I put my name, showed them where to put it, turned around, waited for him. Behind me, this woman came racing up from the actual platform itself, shouting, "He's got a knife! He's got a knife! Oh my Lord, he's got a knife!" I said, hold up a minute. And sure enough, I looked over my shoulder, and this rather wild-eyed man with a very large kitchen knife came staggering up out of the subway platform and looked at me. I said, "Hi." I just went back to the turnstile. I took one lady under the arm here and the other under the arm and said, "Why don't you just come with me?" And took them back up the street level, up the stairs, all the time looking to make sure the friendly fellow down there didn't decide to follow us. And I got them up to the top. I looked down, I looked at them, and I said, Philadelphia was founded in 1688 by Quakers. And,
they're gone now.
I really hope this hasn't soured your opinion of... I'll be right back. Let me go and see if the coast is good. And I went down just to see what was going on. And what I noticed was that Philadelphia cops are unique in the country. And not just because they will plant cocaine on you and put you in jail if you were innocent. It's because they actually reproduce asexually by budding. Because this was the subway entrance. As I was coming up, a Philadelphia police officer ran down. And no one else traversed those stairs. I was told to let them. But when I went down, 8 police officers had this man in custody. So there's nowhere they can come from. So what I figure is the police officer went down there, saw what was going on, and said, "Must divide." He split first into 2, and then 4, and then finally 8 cops. The funny thing is they didn't all look alike. I didn't know what was going on until this week when I saw Men in Black. Now I know. Not just Manhattan. But I shouldn't put Philly down. It is a wonderful town. I hope to live there for, however much longer I can. You did. You can edit that out, can't you? Because remember, next year's con chair gets editorial rights over this videotape, and next year's con chair, as some of you may not know, is me. So if you want it to appear in the videotape, don't piss me off.
Or just get the bloopers.
Don't piss off
Do not taunt Happy Fun Roach. No, I intend to be...
Kagemusha's a roach.
Yes, Kagemusha, that's right. Many people may not know exactly who Kagemusha is. Kagemusha is Furry Muck's, to the best of my knowledge, only insect resident. Kagemusha is a cockroach.
Hey, I had a friend that used to play starfish.
Well, starfish are sort of low class invertebrates. Cockroaches have class, especially if you live in Chicago. Which, as I said at the time, I was a denizen of that fair swill pit. But
I've never lived there, but I've driven through there.
No, it was when I first was starting on Furry Muck. I can barely recall what my first character was, but it was kind of, you know, run-of-the-mill sort of thing. And the very first person I met was Luca, Ron Levy, another well-known furry. And I said to him, I know, I'll play a human. And he said, no, don't do that. So I didn't. And I was sitting in my apartment trying to think of something unique. I wanted a unique character. And while I was sitting there, I had this ancient dumb terminal, and this monstrous black Asian cockroach came climbing up the side of the monitor. And I was quite grossed out. I mean, this thing was like...
But you were inspired.
Footprints. I wasn't inspired. I was grossed out. So I kind of went, go away. And it just sort of reared up at me. And I said, now that is a ballsy roach. Yeah, so that's when the inspiration came to, and that's when I invented Kagemusha, the samurai cockroach. That was him. So that was one of the first major, if one can say there are major historical events on Furry Muck. That was one of them. There was another one, which I don't know if one would call it a major historical event, but boy, I liked it. As I am Kagemusha on Furry Muck, maybe I should have him turn off the camera for this one, because I hate to admit to this. I don't know how many people know Rogue, the 90-foot wolf.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
also me.
Well, we know him because he's a taxi, too.
Yeah. Rogue is a creation out of my twisted little mind. The id having arisen from the depths of my psyche. My psyche's not very bright, apparently, if you've seen Rogue. There was a particular year, I believe it was the year of 1994, Christmas time. 93 or 94. Rogue decided to make a Christmas tree. Does anyone here remember Rogue's Christmas tree? Dan Rogue remembers.
Oh, yes.
Yes. You see, the tree, of course, was quite huge, and Rogue brought it into the park. It was decorated. Now, when one creates, one has to be very careful with one's wording. And I was. The idea behind any good writer or storyteller is to paint a picture with words. This picture kind of took a few people a little far, unfortunately. As I described, this is Rogue, he's a big wolf. The decorations on the tree were actually little foxes who were dressed in festive holiday garb, and they were hanging on the branches. And every once in a while, now I want you to note this well, every once in a while, one of them would manage to shake himself free and would do what ornaments do when they fall from the Christmas tree. You would not believe the war that started over this.
The war?
There had to have been 90 or 100 people in the west corner of the park where this Christmas tree had sat. They had divided into two camps. There was the people who said, "It must go. It's graphically violent. It describes foxes hung by the neck and strangling, and it describes, oh, I get sick looking at it. Oh, it talks about the blood and gore." I didn't put that in the script. I just painted the picture. They were interpreting the picture. Then there was the other camp who were saying the same thing. There's no violence, there's no gore. It doesn't say any of that. And the people over here were getting emotional. That tree is worse than rape! I liked that one. Now, since we're talking about mental pictures, try to picture, if you will, 50 little furries shouting and screaming and frothing at the mouth. Evil, evil over here. And another 50 over here. No, no, no. It must stay. It is good as artistic expression. In the middle of this big dumb wolf going, yeah. Rogue was having a blast. This was all sorts of fun. Look at the attention my tree is getting. It's the Christmas spirit. Merry goddamn Christmas.
That's where the phrase furry Christmas, I think.
Yes, that's when furry mucking Christmas came into being. And, you see, I was getting pages all over the place. I demand that tree be taken down. You must get rid of it. If you don't take it down, I will do the following. And they would list A, B, C bullet points.
And then you proceed to put yourself on Haven, right?
No.
No?
I'm not.
But did they even have Page Haven back then?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yes.
No, I'm not that old. That's it.
Tiny bud.
Well, eventually it was Dear Shateri, always the peacemaker, who sent a page to Rogue saying, look, this is causing a little bit of friction. Do you think you could do something about it? And I said, now look, I've been getting dozens of pages from people saying, I demand you get rid of it. Not once have I gotten a page from someone saying, the tree is very offensive to me, would you please remove it? If I had, I would have removed it immediately. Now, Shateri cheated. He sent me a page, would you please remove the tree? So I did. I took the tree out of the park, but the fight kept going. I came back 2 hours later and they're still at it.
They probably didn't see. Well,
They didn't see. Rogue came in, picked up his tree, and went home. They're too busy tearing each other apart.
But did you post it, or did you just wreck the tree and leave?
I don't remember. I think I just took the tree and no one bothered to look. I pictured 2 nights having gone by and all of a sudden these exhausted furries looking around. Huh?
Where'd the tree go?
Yeah, isn't there a tree we were fighting about? Well, that's what I'm supposed to talk about. They didn't tell me anything about this panel.
Just asking questions.
Okay, how about we do that? Someone asked me a question.
What time is it? What's your last?
What?
You call yourself old.
What a
I've known
curveball!
you for a few years here, and quite frankly, you are not old.
Don't you see the gray hair?
No.
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 Oh, you're all so sweet.
It fell out.
I call myself old because when I first started on Furry Muck, I apparently was older than 95% of the people on there. And it just kind of kept going from there, I guess. I'm also older than, well, some percentage of the people in this room. 50. I'm older than half of you.
So you're average.
I guess I'm average. I'm averagely aged. I'm middle-aged.
You're middle-aged.
I mean, when I first saw you at Morphicon 95, I thought you were in your late 20s.
Thank you. I would be happy if I could go to a restaurant and get carded for once. I go to restaurant like just the other night. I went into the bar. I wanted to have a little nightcap. And I went up and the person, what do you call them at the bar, tender person, came up and said, what would you like? And I said, I would like blackberry brandy in my drink. choice. She brought it to me. And I said, would you like to see some identification? And she said, no. I said, could you look at it anyway? That'll be soon.
Usually teenagers don't walk into bars wearing ties and lab coats. So they probably just figure if you're old enough to hold down a real job, you're old enough to drink.
When I was a teenager, if I'd known that, maybe I would have tried. Of course, I didn't drink till I got to grad school. Most people start drinking when they're in grad school.
Did someone say you like the lab coat?
Does figure.
The one next to you had a
What does
question.
Kagemusha mean,
Kagemushi is a pun. It is a Japanese language pun. Someone tell them that you don't do that when there's a chemist in the building. We find it startling. Kagemushi is a pun, as I said, on the Japanese language. In the 1980s, an absolutely fantastic and unparalleled film was created by the eminent director Akira Kurosawa in Japan called Kagemusha. Kagemusha, the literal translation is the shadow warrior. It just so happens that the word mushi in Japanese means bug. Hence, Kagemushi, the shadow bug. It seemed appropriate. Little black. Anyway, does that answer your question? No. Cockroach in Japanese is actually Gokibori, and hence that's the name of his clan. Kagemushi go no Gokibori no Samurai. You're welcome. I do speak a little bit of Japanese. What other questions have you? Yes, sir.
Tell us about the other times you've been blown up.
Pardon?
The other times you've been blown up.
The other times I've been blown up. Well, there was the ether fire in Arkansas.
Ouch.
Yeah, that was my fault. I was boiling ether on a hot plate. Now, ether has a flash point such that it is conceivable that a static electricity spark will set it off. And I had you want to boil it fast, so you crank the hot plate up a bit.
And why were you boiling it?
Why was I boiling it? Because it's a chemist thing. To be honest with you. No, you had to get rid of it. The fastest way to get rid of it is to boil it. Well, the fastest way is to burn it. But the next fastest way is to boil it off. And I had it in my hood, and I wasn't really paying attention to it, and it got a little too much boiling, and it boiled over, and it went down and hit the hot plate, and the whole hood went up. Remember, it's vapors that burn. It's not the liquid. Now, the hood, being a really sucky hood, the hood, by the way, is the big fan box that you work in. It really wasn't pulling anything. I don't think the belt was connected. So I essentially had this big pool of ether vapor, and the whole thing just went woof, pretty much in my face, and I stepped back. It wouldn't have been so bad if the hood didn't have a heat detector in it, and all the alarms in the building went off. Now, you have to remember, for those of you who have not heard previous story hours, the facility had in the past been a germ warfare research facility. So the alarm system isn't just a little bell. We're talking klaxon horns going off and a big siren on the roof going bad, 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 bad. Everyone for a 20-mile radius knew there was a fire in this building. So I kind of was a little horrified. So I turned around. Now, behind me, again, their traditions hold it. There's this big-ass halon fire extinguisher about 4 feet tall. So I turned around and I grabbed it. And it's got a cone longer than my leg. And I drag it over, and I look, now, ether burns fast. When I turned around again, it was just the beaker with like a little candle flame on top. And I'm looking at this monstrous, this monstrous cannon that I'm holding, and saying it would be such a shame. It's like shooting a duckling. So I'm hesitating. I'm hesitating. For one thing, this is a safety point. If you hit this thing too hard, you'll knock the flask over, and what's left of ether you'll have what chemists call a running fire, it's not a good thing. I've only ever had one of those. I don't like to think about it, so I'm not going to tell you about it. So I'm staring at it now. Who here remembers my tales of old Dwight, the guy I used to work for? Yeah, he's like a big fat Oklahoman, that real jolly guy, except for today. He came running into the doorway, and he's yelling at me, "Shoot it!" I'm saying, but Dwight, it's just a little, and it's getting smaller. He's saying, "Will you go on and shoot it?" Okay, so I pull the ring on the extinguisher, and I get the handle, and by now it's like, he's going, "Will you shoot the damn thing already?" So I said,
Couldn't you just go?
Well, I tried that. I kind of walked up and went, it didn't really work. So I said, okay. So I stood there. They say stand back 40 feet. The room's only 40 feet wide. I'm Dwight, could you step? Pace off 40 feet, turn back, and I aim it, and then it went out. By this time, I can hear the sirens of the fire engines coming outside.
And now there's nothing there.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, fire in chemistry lab in government facility. I mean, it's like they're coming out of the woodwork. You get dead firemen rising from the grave. There were about four engines, 3 pumpers, 1 ladder, as I recall, surrounding the place. And up comes the safety officer. He's this big, equally as fat as Dwight guy named Grizz. Remember, this is Arkansas. I'm not saying we called him Grizz. If you look at his license, it was Grizz O'Brien. So that was good old Grizz. He looked like a Grizz. I would have named my kid Grizz if he'd been that ugly too. Don't ever let him get a hold of that tape. Yes, Grizz came up and started reading me the Riot Act. About, letting fires happen and stuff. How dare you let fires happen?
That's why it's called an accident.
Yeah. So I sat and I listened to it, and he said, the safety officer always has some stupid question like that. What are you going to do to keep that from happening again? I said, I'm not going to do it again. What do you want from me? What I did, I won't do again. I actually had to fill out a form. What are you going to do to keep it from happening again? I won't do that again. Simple.
You learn from your mistakes. How odd.
Yes. We learn from our mistakes. Everyone should
That's why
learn.
people do a big push for ethanol.
Well, what push for ethanol other than drinking it?
No, auto fuel. Does it burn?
It burns more cleanly. The problem is, if your engine is not really made for it, it will corrode all the seals. So don't just go putting ethanol in your engine.
Yeah.
Although I do know a fellow in grad school when they started this emissions testing stuff. His car was not going to pass. I mean, his car is one of these cars that generates its own spy hunter smoke screen. He ran it out of gas and took a bottle of methanol. And dumped it into the tank and brought it down to the place. Now, the car will run, not well, but it will run on methanol. And he was really freaking out, the guy who was doing the emissions test, because it kept blowing 0. The guy's saying, I don't understand it. He hooked it up to his, he has another car there, 0.173 or whatever. Hooks it up to Steve's car and it's 0. He recalibrated and it was 0. Now Steve's getting worried because he's only got a gallon in there. And it's getting really low. So finally the guy said, okay, put it 0. So Steve took it by the gas pump, filled it up, and this poor guy who wrote 0 on the sheet got to watch the smoke screen. I got it was here's my story. It was, I guess, CF5 that was one of my favorite conferences. That was the con, for example, that Uncle Kage's Story Hour began at. Applause. Thank you. All my fans. Yes, your checks will be in the mail. I had been corresponding for some time with a gentleman online named Griff. Now, my interest in birds of prey is well known, and Griff himself is a raptor rehabilitator. So we would go back and forth and talk about our various hawk experiences and such. And I asked him if he was going to be at conference, and he said, well, I'm not sure. And that was the last I heard of it. And then I actually went to conference, and I was having a blast, and I was moseying down the hall, and coming in the direction was the guest of honor, Larry Dixon. Larry Dixon is Mercedes Lackey's husband. And I gave him a polite nod as I went by, and he kind of caught my sleeve, this is very sleeve, right here, and stopped me and said, oh, Kagemusha, I've been meaning to meet you. I said, he said, yeah, I'm Griff.
Oh, man.
Oh, the one that you mean the guy with the... So we became rather good friends as we had been online, and he said, why didn't you come out and visit sometime? They live just in Oklahoma. It's roughly a 5.5-hour drive. Yeah, well, down there, just in Oklahoma, 5.5-hour drive is a piece. That's when they say it's down the road a piece.
Down San Antonio.
Yeah. So he invited me down for a particular weekend, and I said, I'll arrive at noon. So we'll have to send this tape to him, he'll remember this. So I took the drive, and I try to be a very, very punctual person, which means Uncle Kage's story hour begins at 7 o'clock. If you're late, that's your tough. You told me also, right? And at the stroke of noon, I knocked on the door of this beautiful estate in the middle of Oklahoma, and there was no answer. And I knocked again, and yet again there was no answer. And I started to think, well, am I in the right place? It's a very, very unique structure that they live in, so I didn't think that, I mean, how many giant concrete igloos surrounded by octagonal homes do you know? Maybe I'll tell you about that. And finally, on the third knock, the door opened, and here was a very sleepy-eyed Mercedes Lackey blinking at me in her nightgown.
Oh boy.
And I said, hello? And she blinked and said, can I help you? I said, I started, think of a name, any name, give her any name but your real one. So I said, let's go for it. I said, oh, I'm Kagemusha. And she blinked and said, oh yes, come in, please come in. Larry didn't tell me you were coming. He was still in bed. So that was my introduction to these two fine people who remain friends of mine. I would go and spend...
How much money does that take?
I only had to give them about $5 or no. They're terribly generous people. They did not charge me anything. They had me out on numerous weekends. Their home, again, if you've not seen their home, it's an interesting tale behind it. It seems that some years ago, a man decided that he was going to make tons of money by designing tornado-proof houses. So what he did was he took a monstrous balloon. Wake up, Simons. He took a monstrous balloon and poured an immense mold of concrete around the balloon and fashioned an igloo. And then cut a hole in the side, deflated the balloon, and cut little windows in it all over the place and said, here we have the tornado-proof house. It didn't exactly sell very well. And the poor man died broken-hearted. Well, Misty and Larry came along at about the time that a gentleman bought the property and said, you know, this might sell if it weren't so damn ugly. He actually built this very unique, as I said, octagonal kind of veinless windmill structure over it with all sorts of decks and neat things, and they were able to purchase this. And going inside, it's still an igloo. And there's this atrium vaulted ceiling with like concrete and a smoke detector 40 feet above your head. And I always wonder how they test that. I never asked them, how do you change the batteries in that? Yeah, the Buena Park Hotel was one of the more interesting establishments that I've ever had the extreme displeasure to find myself trapped in.
Shower didn't work?
The shower.
That seems to be only the beginning of the problems.
Unlike very few furries, I like to shower daily. I know you all here are of the same religion. We shower in the Buena Park Hotel, and I thought it was just me at first. Well, it was interesting. You see, I arrived Thursday evening, and I went to shower, and ooh.
And they took pictures of you in it.
Yes! That's the only thing that didn't happen. I turned the water on. And of course the water, comes out as it's supposed to. And I was, doing the various undressing, looking in the mirror, doing And the shower was going perfectly happily, and steam was coming out. Now, have you ever been in one of those situations where you were afraid that there was a camera in here and there was like an audience and Alan Funt was saying, now what's going to happen? The shower water's coming out. I stepped in, closed the curtain, stepped forward, and the water went it's like the air was Tried doing this a little bit, and I turned it all the way off and turned it all the way back on, and this little light trickle, this little single trickle of lukewarm water. Now, some people might enjoy this, but I was trying to shower. And I mean, it's kind of hard when you put a little soap here, and all of a sudden it came on full force, ice cold. I was hitting my toes, you're out there trying to push the shower head down, and then it went. So I, as best I could, washed this arm off, and then decided, well, I've had enough of this. So I got out, and I went to turn it off, and it came back on, boiling hot.
That's hot and pile hot, yeah.
Okay, let's just turn it off, I'll go to bed. When I woke up the next morning, I hadn't forgotten. I went into the shower, I said, okay. So I turned it on, and I sat down, laid down. I sat down, and I waited. I'm going to watch this. And I timed 10 minutes. 10 minutes of nice steamy hot water. I said, well, there was some odd aberration last night. So I removed my nightshirt, and I stepped in, and I went just like last night. I said, all right, this is not funny anymore. All right, what's going on? Where's the camera? Yo.
Make sure figure out what the toilet's going to do.
So I again dressed myself. I actually did manage to shower somewhat in this icy cold trickle of water that came down. It kind of like down the middle of your back. Very fast. And I went down to the hotel desk. Now, I said to the manager person, excuse me, there's something wrong with the shower. Would you please have someone go up and see to it? Now, of the Buena Park staff, this was the only person who gave me a straight and honest answer the entire weekend.
Oh my God.
This man. I have his name written down. As a matter of fact, I sent a letter to the owners saying you should praise this man, put him in charge, because he told me, oh, they're all like that. They've been that way for 5 years. Now, I was so thrown by this very candid answer that I just said, okay.
It must have been his last day at work.
Maybe it was, because I never saw him after that, actually. I shall take one more question before I let you all go. We can open the doors after that. You don't have to guard them anymore. They can get out. Yes, sir.
Your ability to tell such wonderful stories, is this natural, or did you learn?
I don't know. I still don't consider it an ability. Again, all I do is get up here and yak, and people seem to enjoy it. I guess you'd say it was natural. If it is learned that I have people in the entertainment industry to whom I look up to. You might see a little bit of George Carlin in me because I consider him one of the greatest comics ever. Yes, it's like applaud. We like Carlin, right? For old George, you can send this tape to him. Maybe he'll give me some money. And for the most part, I guess I just like to talk. And it seems to work. I'll be doing it again Officially, this is the unofficial one, I suppose. Officially, 7 o'clock Saturday night, and I'll actually have a microphone other than this one. So I hope to see everyone there. If you don't go, my feelings will be hurt. And remember, I have all your addresses.
I can't go though.
What?
I can't go though. I'm hosting a Mystery Science Theater party at that time.
You're forgiven. But I thank you all.
There is a message for you.